Empire.
Hello and welcome to a bonus edition of the John Kahn Report. Do me a favor, subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. You can find us there as part of Empire Media, AMPIRE. Always much appreciated when you tune in. Don't forget you can read my work on ESPN.com. I have a story now about exactly what I'm going to be talking about for the next 10 minutes. And that's about the Commanders' possible return to the site at RFK, where RFK Stadium now resides, because early Saturday morning, with unanimous consent, the Senate passed a bill that would grant the federal government the ability to lease the land back to the district for the next 99 years. Now, the president still must sign the bill, but once that happens, then the city can start negotiating with the Commanders about a possible return to the site at RFK. Could they have done that without this? No, because while the district still had the lease on the land for the next 14 years, you were not going to secure any funding for something with that short of a time frame. So this 99-year lease is significant. So now there are a few things still must happen. First of all, they have to negotiate a deal. That means everything it means, right? And so there are some steps there. Then the DC Council has to approve the funding for any project. Now, is that a slam dunk? No, but I think it's in a better spot. I think they're in a better spot to win the approval by the council than they were a year ago. Not a guarantee. So that's something that it's just to pay attention to. There is no federal money involved in this situation. There was never any federal money allocated to this situation. It was only about the transfer of the land, with the lease to the district. That's it. Clearly, though, there will be some public funds allocated or used in this project. Now, the mayor also told me earlier this month, if you saw my interview with her, that she would like to build public housing down there, also a recreation center. I mean, the goal for her and the city is to lure major events back to the district. That means Super Bowl. That means she mentioned the World Cup, Final Four, and she even mentioned Taylor Swift concerts. So big events. So what that means would likely be a dome. That don't know that for sure yet, but if you want it to be a multi-use facility used throughout the year in this climate, you're going to have some sort of a dome, whether it's retractable or not. So that's one thing to know. Now, RFK has always been the preferred site by the Josh Harris group. He's talked about how he grew up as a Redskins fan, going to games at RFK. We all know what that site means as an emotional attachment for you fans. And I covered games there. It was a fun place to go to. Now, the press box was a dump. It was an old baseball press box, but the stadium itself, the atmosphere inside was really, really cool. You had the bouncing stands. Don't be surprised if they recreate that in a new stadium at RFK, because you can do it with in the stands bounce. So they would have some of that, I think, that they would try to incorporate. So, but this is the preferred site. I had someone involved with the team told me share his vision of what it would look like for the team going forward, and how it's a Monday night game. You pan the White House to the Washington Monument to the Capitol to the new stadium over at RFK. So but the point is, they have a vision for this place in particular. I'm sure they have one for Landover if they have to stay, but I think this is the one that gets them excited, because they understand the emotional attachment. Listen, after what the fan base and everybody's gone through with this team, from the name change to a different look to the stadium, etc., this would be a welcome development for you guys, the fans. So, but again, it's a preferred site. Does not mean they're going to end up there, because you still have to get things done. And Maryland still wants them, right? Maryland Governor Wes Moore has been clear that he would like them to stay in the area. But I do think from Maryland, the feeling there is this is a win-win, because to get this unanimous consent, one of the things that the Commanders did was they provided written assurance to the Maryland senators that they would develop the land at Landover should they leave. The Commanders own the 200 acres there, so they've committed to developing that, so that way Maryland is not left high and dry should the Commanders leave. Because Maryland, Moore has talked about spending $400 million or committing $400 million to developing the land around there to help with the Commanders. Now, it sounds like they're going to do that regardless. So if the Commanders then develop that 200 acres, it just revitalizes that area. And I think that area needs to be revitalized. So just to pour some funds into that area would be a very good thing. So that's why I say for Maryland, this can be a win-win. Now they might lose, the team might go back to DC, but I do think like I think this is whether it's Virginia or Maryland, like I think it's just to me, it's better in the district because of the emotional attachment, also because it's called Washington, right? And I think just for this area, like if it's in Maryland, it feels harder to get to for Virginia. If it's in Virginia, harder to get to for Maryland. District, there you go. So you can have your own thoughts on that. Let me know in the comments. But I do think this is obviously a significant development for the team. It's as one person involved in this told me, it was a Hail Mary. Like the text I got was he just put Hail Mary exclamation point. And then someone else who was involved in the situation was like, do you believe in miracles? So that's where this has been such a crazy week where it starts off in the spending bill and then it's taken out. And then you wonder where it's going to go. And even after the spending bill passed Friday night, I talked to some people or texted with some people and they didn't know what they were going to do next. They weren't sure what the next steps. But Mayor Bowser thought that the only way to get it through during this session was to go be attached to that spending bill. Well, it turns out that wasn't the case. So, and I think part of the situation here is that the Commanders were pretty aggressive talking to a lot of the senators, trying to get them to see their side or just to pass this bill. And clearly all that worked. And I don't know how much that played for them. I know James Comer, the representative from Kentucky, was a huge part of this, right? And they want to see that area develop because and the city will end up paying for it, but it helps everybody, right, to have that area developed. So anyways, that's where we stand. A big win for the Commanders and the city, but to win the title, you got a lot more work. You got more work ahead to make sure that it goes from a win this morning to something beyond that down the road. So there you go. Now you're caught up. And again, I'll be back after the game, wrapping up the Commanders Eagles. So, and if you want to go listen to my 5 thoughts on the game, where I talk about Jaden Daniels' red zone improvement, Derek Forrest getting back in the lineup, what it meant to him, and then just a lot of other things relating to the game, things with Terry McLaurin, some numbers that really jumped out from the first Eagles game to now and how they're using him. So anyway, that's also on the YouTube and on the podcast page. So go give that a listen or a watch. So thanks a lot for tuning in. I'll talk to you next time.